have Altergeist for you today. That's not something I thought I would see. We have more Therion with the Earth Barrier statue. And Stand Up, Therion. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. LoganJYA out here actually showcased a Altergeist deck, and it has been so long since we have seen Geist actually coming up to bat out here and showcase that, you know, this deck actually can still do something. And one of the big things that I do want to say is the turn 0 spin on the evenly, or the turn 0 spin on, well, actually this would be a turn 1 follow-up, you know, with the multi-faker is absolutely disgusting, but the turn 0 imperm with the multi-faker is so incredibly strong. Like, it's actually ridiculous. I also see that we're playing 2 Pukuri. This is actually interesting because I saw a lot of people back a while ago, they were trying 3 of this. So actually kind of cutting down a little bit of the fat for this is actually incredibly good. And I see that we're actually playing 1 copy of the Altergeist Synchro down here as well. This might not be the greatest thing in the world, but at this point in time, I mean, I feel like Altergeist just looks at its utility options and goes, oh, well, just one more dead card that we can, you know, shave off with Pot of Prosperity, you know, to get some more initial draw power. Initially, I don't really have a lot of other crazy thoughts with this list. Malwisp 2, I think, is fine. The Veilers and the Ashes as acting hand traps is also acceptable. And then, of course, actually playing 1 copy of Revitalization. I also believe this was pretty standard for the last real time that this deck was showing up. Deck still does the same grind game that it needs to do. If this deck does not get the initial grind going, it puts yourself into such a bad position overall. But I will say, this card still carries this deck. Set 4, multi-faker Altergeist up, roll the Secret Village, offer Handshake. Tale is old as time. Next up, we have a case tournament, 8th place Tistina list. Now, before you're like, it's Kashtira, Robbie, I see the Kashtira cards over there, you're not fooling anybody. Well, here's the thing, alright, the deck doesn't feel complete. You need to supplement the deck with good cards. And no matter how you want to spin it, look at it, you know, topsy-turnsy, leftsy-daisies, the Kashtira package allows this deck a extremely strong chance to sit at the dinner table and do its thing. Which, I mean, you need immediate outs, you need extra deck ripping here. You only play 1 copy of the Rice Heart anyway, so it's not like this is an incredibly, you know, fleshed out package. You're just also playing, you know, the support cards to help along the way to strengthen this. Because, I mean, you're going to be flipping everything face down of your opponents anyway through most of the Tistina package anyway. And most of the Tistina cards do leave a little bit of room to be desired in terms of the raw numbers. Like, well, let's call it what it is at this point. It's not like you're trying to play triple copies of each of these, alright? Like, you want to supplement and set up and do your thing. Also, I mean, triple fields, well, this is still the best card. You need going second cards to assist you and do your thing, and that's what the Kashtira stuff is giving you. A lot of people are already focusing on blind second cash anyway, so we can go ahead and include, you know, the Kashtira cards to help us along the way and still set up and do the initial same thing. I also like that we are playing the full Armored Exceed package in here as well. Sadly, we don't have the spell card just yet. You know, when we eventually do get to the spell, it will help out a lot of the rank up packages and things like that down here. I'll say that we are playing a number X exotopic Dark Infinity down here as well. You know, the little sub-boss monsters you can make is kind of cute. Alright, next up here, it's the Earth Barrier Statue Turbo. You know, I have enjoyed the fact that another degenerate deck has shown up in the room here and said, hey, you know, I can play some barrier statue goodness too, you know, like we can do all sorts of these little stupid things and we can get away with this. Yeah, but the biggest argument I hear from people is you got a hard draw. Well, yeah, that's fine. All right, because if I see this, it just combo helps me win the game at that point, you know? So that's something that you gotta think about here is the value that this barrier statue has. I mean, hello, like, oh no, I can't do Duke and Ein, or, you know, but I can do Alsadia with the Regulus. Okay. Oh no, most of my Horus stuff will be able to do its thing too. Yeah, you're dropping this on the table at the end of the full combo and telling your opponent, good luck, have fries. I mean, it's not like you don't have, you know, protection for it like this. Also, this does force a battle phase, which if you have, you know, the entire squad up here, enjoy getting some free laughs as they try to out this thing via some sort of card effect. So it's the value of the card and what it adds into the pile that you need to consider for this list, and I will say that it is incredibly strong. People that are discounting this are going to have an incredibly bad time. That's just how it is at this point. Like, the card is good. Next up here, oh man, we have more Centurion. Now, due to a lot of consideration here from the previous builds that we've seen, this build is not trying to gas through the roof with hand traps. This build it's still got a strong amount of them, like, there's this, but they chose to cut some of them for actual defensive value, like Crossout Decimator. This deck is in an interesting place right now in the TCG because it needs to find a way to kind of supplement the abuse that it's getting from, you know, the other decks in the room, because if the deck gets choke pointed out, like, it's done. That's why most people call this deck garbage, is because it's so fragile. Alright, but like most decks in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, if, you know, your opponent doesn't have the hand trap or the ability to stop you, well, you're off to the races. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's just how that is at this point in time. So, yes, you have a lot of things that are going in your favor here, which what you do want to see, and you are going to be relying on these hand traps to, you know, if you get disrupted, attempt to set you back up into the next turn. Also, only the 2 talents versus 3 that we've seen previously. I think either or works out in terms of ratios. It depends on what you want to do for deck building. I mean, obviously you're playing Desires for the turbo anyway, so kind of keep that in mind. Alright, next up here, we have more Cash Tira, dollar bills, money, 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 yo. Triple Rice Art feels pretty normal. I see that we are relying on the triple Fenrir here as well. We have double Dimensional Fissure. You know, I do like Dimensional Fissure in this deck. I like the fact that it gives you access to a disruption to basically attempt to do something against your opponent. And that disruption actually can put you into a pretty good position overall. So I will say that either way, it's going to work out. Main decking the Feather Duster is also pretty good. I mean, you have 1 thrust to be able to toggle into this if you need to, depending on the situation. This build also chose to bring the Drolls in post-side decking, along with Veilers as well. So you've got an incredibly large spread of things going for you here, either way. And, you know, the more options that you can typically filter through and have access to for you to do your thing, typically is what makes Cash Tira actually doable. Also, I feel like cutting Preparations at this point, well, Preparations feels like a good card. It's just another one of those cards that you feel like you have more fat with it than really anything else. And that's not exactly something that you really want to have with this deck. You know, you can trim off the fat and get away with having probably a little bit more consistent of a deck at this point in time. So little things to consider out here. And of course, our last list here is some Infernoble. I am very curious to know how this deck is going to hold up for Year of the Fire once Fire Kings actually enter into the arena here and kind of give this deck some trouble. I see we are playing 1 copy of the Red Layer. You know, I know a lot of people try to cut this card if they can. We play the 1 Angel's Ring, the 1 DDR. We're still doing the 1 Snake Eyes. We do play the 1 DM Bellstar, standard. And, of course, this build's getting away with 2 copies of Wanted. This actually, it doesn't really help budget players all that much, but, I mean, shaving $75 off of your deck cost is always going to be something that you should be a little bit more excited about. You know, it's not exactly the greatest thing in the world, but you take it where you get it at this point, I feel like. So that is everything that we have for today. What do you guys think about these interesting little ideas? Because I think there's a lot more to be said about how things are going right now. versus, you know, just how the meta feels. So please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and, yeah, Tistina of all things. I like what I'm seeing, at least. Patrons, thank you!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.